Okay, so I've just started the recording now. I'll put this video on the channel and in Easy Class as well afterwards. Now, yesterday's video took a while to process. I had some issues with Windows, but it's done. It's finally done. I put the link in the channel, and it's available on my YouTube channel too. So if you've not seen it, if you've not subscribed to that, I'll quickly give you the link, and you can have a look. And I'll put this there too in a minute. So this is my channel here. Let's see if you haven't seen it. Maybe you have, maybe you have not. Okay, now the letters, the corrections, I'm going to put this in Easy Class. Now, I mentioned this in the video yesterday. I don't know if you all joined or if you are members or not. The reason why I'm using Easy Class is it's a management system. Now, you know, on Telegram, it's essentially a messenger service. So, you know, people look for files and you have to scroll and go back, and files can be everywhere, you know, which is not very good. It's not very efficient. So Easy Class, and I don't know why the other admins don't use it too. It's just a system to allow me to put all the writing material in one place. You don't have to go scrolling up and down. You sign in, the library is there, all the corrected letters and files in an archive. It must be about 200 now, maybe. So there's quite a lot of corrections there. Most of the videos are also linked there, but if not, you can find them on YouTube, as I say. So I'll put these there afterwards. So without any further chat, let's get on down to business, because we've got a few letters to do. Okay. Let me just sort this out and manage participants. Okay, I've got 6 or 7 letters here. See what we've got time for. I'm gonna try and do a session every day in the run-up to the exam on January the 12th. I'll see if I should be able to do it, because I've got next week off from school. I don't start back till the 7th. So for next week, at least, I should be able to do a session every day. So there's going to be lots of opportunities for you to send in your letters and, you know, get some corrections. So first things first, we do writing February. So what we do first, go to a task. What do we have to do? So a letter of referral, okay, to Dr. Jack. Seeking. So we are asking, we are requesting, we're asking for his advice on diagnosis and assessment. So it's not simply, I am writing to refer you. It's not only that. We're actively asking for him to give us some advice for diagnosis and assessment. So what you need is to go to the task, look at the different verbs, seeking, requesting, you know, what is it exactly they want you to do? Look at the plan. So we think, so it could be IBD, we're not sure, could be Crohn's, we're not sure. So the plan is give advice on stopping or quitting smoking, give the patient some counsel or advice about IBD, and, you know, and refer for diagnosis and assessment. Now, as we know, OET includes some irrelevance, hoping that you will include it. Well, I hope that you won't. So some of this stuff we do not need. We don't need all this. So we'll see how you go. Okay, Dr. Shady. Now, I asked Joseph specifically to find people who had not been assessed before. I think that's what he's done, right? Because we've got quite a lot of people in the group, and people who are taking their exam in January get a priority over those who are taking it at a later date. And also, if you've had one letter corrected before, then I'm not correcting every letter that you send. If you haven't had any letters corrected, you can send them in and I'll take a look at them. So I'm going to save the changes. Let me get on with this. Changes, save, as I say. I'll put these files in Easy Class. Okay. I'm writing this letter to refer Mr. Newton, a patient of mine. Well, you wouldn't be sending somebody else's patient, would you? Irrelevant. Don't need it. If it's not your patient, why would you be referring him? Whose features are suggestive of inflammatory bowel disease, IBD. He requires your expert. Well, I hope he's an expert. You don't have to say that. Your expert medical attention. Okay, I'm writing this letter to refer Mr. Newton for what? Now, right, this is what I'm talking about in terms of task response. Now, the criteria, all those different things. The main one is task achieve. It's like task response or task. I think they call it task fulfillment, but it's the same with all these exams. Do you do what you are asked? Do you fulfill the requirements of the task? Well, seeking his advice on diagnosis and assessment. Now, what you're supposed to do, and if you go to Swoosh E2, they are, and there's that Australian one, OET on line, they're quite good. They will tell you the same thing that I am telling you now. You're supposed to put your request intentions in the introduction and also at the end before the closing. You're supposed to do it twice. If you look at the standard letters, you will see. Okay, so there's nothing in this introduction about what the task says, right? So you're not sure if he's got IBD. You're not sure if he's got UC or Crohn's, right? You want advice on diagnosis and assessment. And nowhere in this introduction do you say anything about seeking, requesting, asking for advice. You say he requires your expert medical attention. Okay, I'm sure that he does, but you want advice. And it doesn't say it, so not so good. Okay, Mr. Newton sent to me on today's review. Well, okay, but you don't really need to include that. You can just say presented, complaining of a former history of diarrhea. I don't think that's spelled right, is it? Diarrhea, yeah. Abdominal pain and lethargy. In addition to that, was a lack of appetite. He didn't have any appetite, okay. And weight loss, the symptoms which had why is that past a perfect? Why is that past a perfect there? But furthermore, because of his symptoms which had managed neither by, that's not very well expressed, not very well phrased at all. Furthermore, because of his symptoms, okay, so which were managed, which were managed neither by food modification nor OCT medications, he decided not to go out and became anxious. So I don't know why this is split into 3 clauses. It's not really required to be split into 3. Okay, you could have phrased it a little better, I think. Okay, which were managed now by which were he decided not to go out and became anxious. Is that what it says? It's anxiety and embarrassment stopped attending his Friday squash. So it's kind of like furthermore, due to his uncontrolled symptoms, he has been a recluse, or he has not taken part in social activities, and he has become anxious. I don't know why that's the simple past there. Become. Okay. Well, if everything was unremarkable, why mention it? You know, if there's nothing to say, don't say it. On the examination, although everything was unremarkable, but it wasn't, though. I mean, that's not true, because there was a tenderness in my stomach. So that's not really true. Although everything was unremarkable, but he had a tenderness in his stomach. So this statement is not strictly true, because if that were true, then why would you be including this? Okay. Moreover, now, right. What we were talking about this yesterday and before. If you're going to use abbreviations, acronyms, you're supposed to spell them out first, right? You're supposed to spell them out first, and then you can use them for every subsequent usage. Okay? So don't just include abbreviations without any explanation, because that's not good, because that's more like note forms. They don't want note forms, they want complete sentences. Okay? So moreover, his were elevated. Why? Talking right. Another thing. Why do we have moreover, however, additionally? You could put all this into one single sentence. There's no need for overuse of discourse markers. Overuse. You don't need to, you don't need to have them at the beginning of every sentence. Look, moreover, however, additionally, don't need it. You're making it overly complicated. You could put these three into a single sentence. So you need to spell these out, right? CRP, ESR, spell them out first, then put the abbreviations afterwards in brackets, okay? You could have put these three in a single sentence, and we don't need to overuse moreover, however, additionally, okay? So let's see what else we've got. Regarding history, so regular play. Well, yeah, okay, but what does that, does the, what's his name again? Ah, yes, the gastroenterologist. Do you think he really needs to know that Mr. Newton is a regular player of squash? Just curious, do you think he really needs this? Is this such a vital piece of information that it must be included? I don't think so. You don't have to, well, no. Somebody said no, we don't need it. The gastro, right, what you've got to do, and I say this time and time again, right? I say this time and time again, is put yourself in the shoes of the recipient of the reader, right? So imagine you're the gastroenterologist, and you receive this. What you want to know, first thing is, what do you want me to do? And then you want a narrative, a story that explains it. Okay? So you've got to put yourself in the shoes of the reader. What do you think they need? What's the important information that they need, that they actually need? And then that will help you to decide what to include or not. In view of the above, my provisional diagnosis, that's good, okay. Therefore, referring Mr. Newton for further assessment. At the same time, he was advised, now, why do we, right, now, in a paragraph, a paragraph has to be on one thing and one thing alone. They don't like you to mix different bits of information in a paragraph, right? If you're gonna have something else, don't put it in the same one, have a separate piece. Okay, now this doesn't really work where it is. Now let's have a look at the case. So hang on, he's only been, right, 21st at 30, right, he's only been once. Okay, right. He's only been once. So shouldn't this be up here in this paragraph? For well, no, right. That should be either here or it should be here. And I would put that. I would make that a single paragraph. Okay. We don't need this here. Right at the end. The end is where you tell the reader what you want them to do, which is you want them to advise, you want them to have a look at Mr. Newton, and you want them to advise you on your provisional diagnosis. That's what you want, but you haven't told them what you want them to do. So, well, and so this doesn't need to be there. It needs to be, if you're, you know, for a logical story, a narrative, it should be up here, should be here, but it shouldn't be down here, because it doesn't make sense to put that where it is now. And you still haven't said, you know, you want advice. There's nothing here about advice. So in terms of task response, this won't do as well as it should. So moving on, let's see what else. Refer now, assessment we appreciated. Let's have these introductions. Further assessment and management. But nothing about advice. You're seeking, again, seeking his advice. So you have to actually say, can you advise me about this? I'm not sure. I want you to verify. If you don't include it, then how will the reader know? That's what you want them to do. Okay. To refer Mr. Newton for what? Whose signs and symptoms are now, right. Now, this is a good example of what I mentioned in the previous letter. You spell it out first, and then you can put your abbreviation. Okay, that's how it's done. Your further assessment would be appreciated. Well, I suppose it would, but what about seeking advice? What about I have tentatively diagnosed this, I want you to confirm it. You know, I mean, look, you're not sure if it's IBD, you're not sure if it's UC, okay, you want diagnosis and assessment advice. You've got to include it. That's what the task is talking about. Okay. Is a heavy smoker, oh dear. Would you put this right at the start? Would you put this right at the start? Or wouldn't you just say, Mr. Newton presented, and, you know, to my practice today, you could include it, but it's, you know, we can guess, really, you know. If you're going to include it, you need to make this a relative clause. So you have to put who. Because if you simply have presented, simple past, it doesn't work, right? So you would either have to have Mr. Newton, a comma, who is a smoker, blah, blah, blah. Then you could say presented to my practice. Yeah. So you'd either have to have it like this, okay, and get rid of that, or not have that or that. But you need a relative pronoun somewhere in that sentence. Okay. We want to practice overall history, we want to do pain, but put appetite along with weight loss. No improvement in his ongoing complaint was noticed. Why is that? Simple part, despite trials and diet. So I would say I would put some introductory phrase or expression. He has tried self-medication by changing his diet and taking various pain killers, etc., which has not been successful. You could say something such as that, and that would work fine. Now, you see this. That is better than the previous one. Nice and simple, to the point. This condition is affecting his daily activities and social life. We don't need to know about squash. He decided to stay in and he's anxious. Okay, but that would work. Okay. Abdominal examination demonstrated generalized tenderness. Now, you've got to watch this because you're not supposed to write it like note form. They want you to write complete sentences, right? Complete. So simply starting with a noun phrase, that's not a grammatically complete sentence. It's more like notes. So either a pronoun or an article. Okay. So his abdominal examination or an abdominal examination. We need a pronoun or an article to make it grammatically complete, because that's what the criteria says. I don't know if you've got it. Well, that's not the whole task, but it does say usually write complete sentences, etc. So complete sentences, right? So we need something. Pronoun, article in front of that. Tenderness. Test. Again, there's nothing, there. Abdominal examination, tenderness, but test results. Again, that's not complete sentence. More over-minding and positive figure because we're detected. As a consequence, so smoking as a consequence. Now, you've got to be careful. As a consequence means cause and effect. Yeah. So as a direct effect of this, he was advised. Now, you've got smoking cessation. Okay. I've seen this a lot. It's not a paraphrase. It's simply lifted straight from the notes. It says that in the case notes. Doesn't it say about smoking cessation somewhere? Yeah. There. Yeah. You need to paraphrase. Oh, only 10 minutes left, so I'll have to get up. Move on. What are we? Yeah. What are we? Oh, yeah, yeah, right. So that's not really, that's like lifted straight from the notes. So, and why is it passive? Why is it passive? Can't you make it an active? I advised him on how to quit smoking or stopping smoking, and we discussed IBD. Have you spelled it out? Yeah, yeah. So you see, that's what I meant. So you spell it out in full, and then every subsequent use. That's okay. So that's good. So somebody was talking about article before blood test. Well, yeah, I did say that's the same thing. We need pronoun article to make it a proper sentence. Okay. Now, I'm just saying, as a consequence means as a direct, cause and effect, and that's not always the case. So instead of saying that, you could say therefore or subsequently instead of as a consequence. And why is it passive? You're supposed to show a mixture of structures. Was advised. I advised him. And don't simply lift expressions. You've got to paraphrase. I advised him, or I gave him advice regarding stopping smoking, etc. Yeah, because this is essentially it's an English test. So if you're not showing a good range of grammar or structure, you're not going to, I know most of you are aiming only for like a B, was it 350 up? But you can get more by demonstrating and showing a wider range of grammar and vocabulary. So if you're not paraphrasing, if you're lifting the same expressions, if you're using the same structures, passive, 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 you're not, this is essentially an English test after all. I know it takes the form of a letter, but still, it's an English test. So you have to try and vary the structures, etc. So I would, be careful about using that. Well, which was his or the. Either one of those. In view of the above, I believe now, right here, this is what I was talking about in the previous letter, right? For which he requires your further assessment in order to confirm the diagnosis. So that is better. That's more or less addressing the task. Again, and I'll say this as many times as I need to. Go to the task, seeking his advice. How do you seek advice? How do you do that? What words, expressions, phrases would you use? You would ask them. You would mention advice. So that's not that kind of hints at it, that kinds of hints at it. That is better than the previous one. It's better than the previous one, but still it doesn't specifically say, I want you to advise me on this. Okay, so now your question of assessment in order to confirm with diagnosis, and that should be in the introduction as well. Right, task fulfillment. What does it say? You've got to ask advice because you're not sure about IBD, etc. That's what you have to have. That's the important thing. Dear gastroenterologist, I'm not sure. I want you to advise me. Can you help me with this? That's what you've got to do. So, one or two things there. Let's have a look. Now, I might have time to look at this third one. I've only got 4 minutes left. We'll see how it goes. A bit. Might have to have another session tomorrow evening, I think, and I'll try and do some more. So, Mr. Patrick Newton, that's not spelled right thing. Mr. Accountant. Do we need to know that he's an accountant? No, we don't. Who's sings? La 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 la. Sings? I don't think sings. I think possibly signs. That could be what you mean. Signs and symptoms are consistent for further assessment and management. Again, you're using the same expressions, the same phrases, everybody else for every letter. And OET do this on purpose because they know that everybody's going to be memorizing and copying these expressions. They don't want that. They don't. Further assessment management, right? They want you to ask them for advice. Let's go to the bottom. I greatly appreciate your assessment and management. Okay, but doesn't say anything about advice. Okay. So we don't need the accountant part. Not really. It's not so important. Smokes 10 to 15 years. Is this relevant at all for wrist pain? I'm not going to guess how he's got a pain in his wrist, but is that relevant or pertinent? So I'm the gastroenterologist. Okay, and I'm reading this. Mr. Newton, oh, he's an accountant. Oh, and he's got pains in his wrist. Why are you telling me this? I don't need it. Joint pain with IBD? Well, if you say so, I wouldn't have thought so, but there we go. And in any case, this could be moved further down. If you have to include it, it should be further down. It should be down somewhere round about there. So what's the main issue? What's the important thing? Well, if it's relevant, it shouldn't, if you say so, I would put it down here. What's the important thing? Important thing is he came to see me and this is what I found. Right? This is the important thing. This is the main issue. This. You can put this farther down, but this is what the gastroenterologist wants first. Okay, today he presented to me complaining of. Now, what most the conventions say, they put the name at first, and you can use pronouns after. Complaining of mild diarrhea, counter symptoms, social effect. Okay, that is good. The rest of his, not his rest of examination was unremarkable. Vitals are stable, there's no cold blood, kind of partial diagnosis formed. Now, this is going to stop in a minute, so I've got less than a minute left. So I'll have to leave this. We'll have another session tomorrow, probably on a different letter, because I haven't got the time now. So I'll try and cover a few more tomorrow in the seminar. It'll be around about the same time. We'll post it in the group. This is going to finish in a second. So I'll put this video and the 2 letters that I have done in Easy Class and on YouTube.